Good rising, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. I am Taylor Andre. Waking up with Taylor Andre has absolutely nothing to do with the time of day we link up. It's about waking up your third eye with unorthodox conversations leading to universal consciousness. I got my best friend finally in the building after he done did an interview with everybody in the world but me. Yes, I'm gonna put that out there. So I have known this amazing man for more of my life than I've been alive. So like he has been in my life more than, I don't even know how to explain it, but since I was a little girl, Black Planet days, okay? And I have watched him turn into an educator. Well, he's always been an educator, but an actual in the school system educator and an educator in the classroom when it comes to Black guns mattering here in the city of Boston. The Don Firearms, you have seen him multiple times in the form of a little Bart Simpson leaning on a rifle. And he is out here teaching Black people the importance of being prepared, and not just with firearms, but like readiness, preparedness in the home, in case of an emergency, having your go bag. And so I have so much love and so much respect, and I honor this man, and I am so glad that I get to share him with you all today. And so what's going on, Issa? How are you?
Fantastic. How about yourself?
I'm super fantastic.
There you go. Queen B.
You all right? How you doing?
I'm trying to get this camera right. So I'm struggling a little bit.
Hold on. Let me see if this is what you're trying to do. Is that better?
No. Not at all.
Well, we can see your face and we can hear your voice, and for me, that is enough.
All right, let's do it.
All right. And so I want to rewind the time. So for those who have seen your face prior to the Don Firearms, what were you doing and how do most people know you?
Yeah, definitely. So I was a public school educator in Boston Public Schools. My first role was as an English teacher. I started in the Timothy Middle School, which is where I actually began as a student when I moved to Boston. Actually, I went to school before that. So then I taught at the Timothy Middle School for 5 years, and then my best years were at the Maurice J. Tobin, I almost forgot the name of it. And then I spent the last 5 to 6 years as the Boston Public School Program Coordinator for a program called the 10 Boys Initiative, which was centered on providing holistic experiences that would allow Black and Latino boys, space for transformation. And then 2 years in, I created the 10 Girls Initiative, just as a collective, understanding that, we cannot heal our sons without healing our daughters as well. So providing that space and opportunity for both boys and the girls.
Mm-hmm. What was the 10 Boys Initiative?
Yeah, it was essentially a program that was started by Dr. Hardy in 2007. And her intent was essentially to keep Black and Latino boys out of graveyards, jails, and get them back into schools. After she retired, she passed the baton on to Dr. Carol Blake, who took those same motives and decided to figure that once they were in the school, then how do we get them to be successful academically? So he focused primarily on getting students academically sound so that they can get into college. So during Dr. Blake's years, I was a facilitator at both the schools, the Timothy and the Tobin. And one of the things that I really wanted to do, and what I realized was that we got these young men in the classroom, they're being successful, but there's still a gap between where they are, emotionally as well as spiritually. So what I decided was that, how could we take what how my predecessors had created, but also create space for them to heal. So we did a lot of retreats. We did a trip to Africa. Every year we would do trips out of the state where we would take them on, some type of Black history exploration. So we did DC, Maryland, Philadelphia, and New York City.
If I can just interject really quickly, when he says DC, it was the Million Man March that just passed.
Yeah, mm-hmm. Sure did the Million More March. Yep. So that was the goal and the focus. I decided to step away from the school system once, a lot of the innovative ideas that I had, particularly around how to curb some of the violence in the city. As a firearms owner and a firearms instructor, one of the things that, I would offer as a solution was, hey, look, if young people are, involved in violence and, sadly losing their lives, then what is something that I could do with the realm of influence that I have? And one of the things that I decided to do was try to create an avenue through which we could essentially give them tools and skills that if they cannot basically avoid the violence, then at least have some tools to survive the violence. So essentially, I was offering hey, look, if our young men are banging, then let's get them some tourniquets. You know what I'm saying? Let's get them some gauze, some trauma dressing, so that way we could be able to provide them tools that they don't have to be traumatized by ultimately seeing their friends die. And that was one of my solutions. And it was shot down. A lot of times, folks weren't willing to listen because a lot of educators are anti-gun. And I understand that. By no means was I, arguing to bring firearms into the school, but the least we could do is give these young people IFACs with the effort of, making sure that they have tools that they could use to be able to help save their lives. And it doesn't require them to be doctors.
Mm-hmm. And so without speaking, I am speaking about BPS on so many levels, but Doncor is not. What was the opposition that you faced trying to bring these tools into the school? What was the reasoning behind the opposition because I know you came correct with facts, statistics, numbers. What was still the opposition when you had all of this proof?
Somehow, folks seem to believe that, how do I say this? That somehow solving gun violence is solely equated to law. And that's just not the case. Because if that was, then, you wouldn't have as many shootings and murders as you would in, say, Chicago, which have some of the most strict gun laws in the country, as well as New York City and Los Angeles alike. So a lot of people, want to take that approach. And my thinking is that, if violence has been, part of the American experience as much as the red on the flag is, then, how do we at least give folks the tools to not be victimized by it and subject to being traumatized by that violence as well. You know, one of the most painful experiences that I ever had to go through in regards to a young person's funeral was the young man that was stabbed at Jackson, and his girlfriend had said that one of the things that she wished she could have done was to do something to help him. And that was kind of like clear, inspiration for me to be like, look, someone's got to do something. Something has to be done, or else, children will continue to be traumatized emotionally and spiritually by the violence. So my goal is to be able to provide healthy space and avenues for young people to engage in firearm knowledge, as well as the tools and skills to save lives. So, that's the hope, and that was why I stepped off, because folks were not willing to listen to it.
Can you hear now?
They say if you are not going to be part of the solution, then you're part of the problem. So I was going to get out the way.
I think it's because somebody called.
Step away.
What are some of the, so you went ahead and you started your own business, and you starting your own business brought Don Firearms, the Don Firearms. And so you now on Sundays teach a class for people to come out and get their firearm license, their LTC, license to carry. And so what are some of the things that you've seen in the beginning that like success, not just the success, but like what are some of the stories that you heard, or why people are in class? Why is everybody just want to, tote a gun? Like, what's the reason that you've heard a lot of people say, I'm taking this class because?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of folks have various reasons for why they want to get their firearms license. One of the first inspirational stories was a young mother whose son had just been murdered. And I didn't find this out until she was sitting in my living room. I started the first,
Hey, I'm on air. Let me call you right back.
Classes. And this young mother was in my classroom.
You heard me?
And she was with her husband.
I'm gonna call you right back. I'm on air.
Where I opened the case, unlocked the case, opened the case up with the firearm in it, and tears start falling out of her eyes. So I give the sister a second, is everything okay? The husband begins to explain that her son had just been murdered, and what she had kind of came to and wiped her eyes and got herself together. She basically said, and I'll never forget this, she was like, she described them as punks. She said, those young punks killed my son, and what's stopping them from coming back to the house and trying to kill the rest of us? And essentially she was in the class because she had wanted to be able to take the ability to protect herself and her family into her own hands. And I thought that was so inspirational. I mean, it brought tears to my eyes, that she hadn't even buried her child yet. And the sister was in class, trying to learn how she could get her firearms license so she can continue to be her primary role as a mother and protector for her family. And that was just beautiful. Another story is very similar as well. It was an elder, his son, who's an adult man, well in his 30s, probably mid-30s, had come to my class, very same kind of situation, sitting in the class, and then, he literally tears coming to the eyes. And my friend at the time who was helping me assist, he talked to him, and then, at the end of the class, he was like, "Yo, Don, this is crazy." I'm like, "What's up?" And he ultimately, told me that the son had been involved in a mistaken identity over on H Block, and some kids came over and shot his son. And here it is, this elder, 75 years old. And when we were in the range, I kind of confirmed the story with him. And what he said was, he said, even though I'm 75 years old, it's still my task as a father to protect my son. And these are countless stories. And, people getting engaged in the range, mothers with their sons, fathers with their daughters in the range, countless positive images of families spending quality time together, preparing to protect themselves as well as their families. And these are the stories that are being told. So I do my very best to try to provide those stories via Instagram because Facebook doesn't like me too much. But But yeah, and those are the stories of regular hardworking families that ultimately want to be able to protect themselves and those that they love.
Mm-hmm. So I want to talk about firearms, and I want to talk about the stigma behind firearms. Right now we have, so I'm not even going to beat around the bush. I want you to talk about these 4-year-old white kids out in the suburbs that are sharpshooters. Or how you say that? What's the word? Yeah, that part. So like 4-year-olds that are marksmen that have been shooting and have been around guns their entire life. And then you turn around and you see like a little black boy and he don't even know what certain parts of guns are. And so I want to talk about that and to like change the idea and the stigmas behind the teaching of LTC.
Yeah, I mean, so ultimately, there was a lot of shame for me personally, particularly as a public school educator. I felt like, there was a part of myself that I almost had to keep very quiet because it was not socially accepted, for a middle school English teacher to be a firearms instructor. And ultimately what I started to realize was that there's actually a lot of trauma, for Black and brown people in and around, particularly those that live in the city in and around firearms. And I began to kind of like start to toll and play with this idea around, well, if folks are, ultimately coming to a space where they're up against their fears, right? And it can be fear of being socially stigmatized. It can be fear of being shot by the police for being mistaken, for having an illegal firearm. All right, there are tons and tons of other fears that a lot of folks used to have before coming to my class in and around firearms. And I began to think about how I could use that space to do the work that I was already doing in my classroom, which is allowing people the space and opportunity to recognize and put their fingers on their fears, and then being able to say, but I'm not going to allow myself to be stuck in this place and continue to move forward. I've had brothers that were a part of that whole case with the lady who was messing up people's forensic evidence and having to deal with the fear of continuing to be viewed as a criminal. I've had those folks in class. I've had big name people in my class that a lot of folks know in Boston, who are in the same situation where they're looking to move past this place, right? Like this invisible barrier that keeps them separated from somehow engaging in firearms. And ultimately I began to use it as a place to empower people, right? Like, I recognize and honor the fact that you're in a space of fear right now. And then asking people, what do you want to do with that? You know what I'm saying? And most people are like, I want to get this license to carry. And they're not providing the support that they need, not only on the literal side of the application, but also on the emotional side of it as well. Beginning to think about, how can we, get those folks who have experienced those traumas and then move them forward by facing their traumas, putting their finger on them and being able to keep them close so that way it doesn't allow them to be triggered both literally and figuratively, and move them into a space of living, peaceful and holistic lives. So that led me to change my model to, responsible to a healing modality just because of the constant stories and being able to witness people go through that process. So that's ultimately how we break those stigmas, right? Continuing to provide people that space. I keep it above. It took me a very long time to start offering, youth courses. But once the parents were like, listen, hey, we don't want to take, our children to nobody else, and we want them to be educated, but we don't necessarily feel confident yet to do it. Can you do it? Like literally bringing their kids to the adult classes. And I was like, they're a little too young to be here with the adults, but I'm going to create this space. And I've done that. And parents are very grateful, for the opportunities that their children are provided, to the point where, children are carrying iPads in their book bags to school, particularly the high school students, it's just a powerful thing to see. And I think slowly, the more people start to see regular people right? Not the folks out there with tiki torches and Trump banners, right? But regular folks from the hood, who are working hard and really doing their best that they can to take care of themselves and their families, engage, as long as they're continuing to engage and push those limits in the Second Amendment, the image will change. Just a little bit of fact, every year there are 15 million new gun owners in America. Black women alone in 2020 represented 9 million out of that 15 million. So, there's an African proverb that says, if you educate a woman, you educate a nation. So, as long as we continue to get the
get that number again. That's like 65%, right? That's
more than that, but I ain't got the math in front of me, but we have 9 million out of the 15 million new gun owners in America were Black women alone. And I particularly, market and intend to, want those women in my classes, because the truth of the matter is, Black women are more violently assaulted, sexually assaulted, and, not to mention, kidnapping and missing persons, right? Black women represent the largest demographic within, that kind of data. So my thinking is like, hey, look, how do I give the system the space and opportunity that they will not be victimized? So I plan to and continue to plan to, provide that space for the mothers, for the daughters, grandmothers, aunties, so that way they can continue to protect themselves. And then my prayer and hope is that they take it and educate their families, which a lot of them have. So it's been phenomenal, and there's a lot more work to do, because the media as well as the Democratic Party is not easing up on their assault on particularly responsible gun ownership in the city. So there's a lot more work to do.
Mm-hmm. Tell me what we're looking at right now.
Yeah, definitely. So this is the website. Well, I can't see you. There you go. This is the website right here. Again, those are all, either former students of mine, two of them, and one of them was someone who came to my class. They're all adults. So those sisters, volunteered their beauty and their time to be a part of my model shoot. So if you click on calendar, yep, so these are all of the course dates that we have. So again, as a firearms instructor who started in this house, I was only teaching one class, but after request, it was ultimately the demand of the students that have come and taken my course. You'll see a myriad of courses. I think I'm teaching up to like 13 courses right now, and trying to honor, my family and stay good with them. Most courses are offered on Sunday, and if not on Sunday, Thursday evening. So this class right here is the class that I started teaching. It's called Basic Pistol, and the intent of that course is to give people the space and opportunity to qualify, which is a little bit different than home firearm safety. So that class you could actually use in Connecticut, you can use it in Rhode Island. It's an 8-hour class. I definitely don't suggest it for someone who's new to firearm ownership or even firearm knowledge, because the day is very long. But we all must invest time, money, and energy to do this the right way. So that's an awesome class that we have coming up next weekend. We do the skill development course, which is a individualized shooting plan for the 5 people that come that evening. And ultimately what we do is we take folks from where they're at and we help move them forward. Survival Bag class is intended to be able to give folks knowledge about what they should be keeping in their car. A lot of times people, take for granted that there's a gas station nearby, so they don't have, a gas tank, ready in the back of their trucks or their vehicles. So this class basically says, all right, well, listen, if everything goes down, or if you have to hike with your children from your vehicle to get gas, do you have the things to survive that hike? No matter if it's winter or so this takes a look at, what are the things that you should be keeping in a bag in your car? And there's 2 types of bags. There's inch bag, which is that, like, hey, look, I ain't never coming back to this house. I need to survive in the woods for the rest of my life. And then there's just a bug out bag, which is ultimately for 72 hours. and the things that you would need in there, and how to keep it light, so that way you can, stay out of the house for, if you had to, in an emergency situation, spend 2 hours and come back home. So that's an awesome course as well. One of the courses that I really love to teach that, families and children really enjoy, and I've taken a lot of the feedback and helped to improve it, is actually the Stop the Bleed course, which will be later in November. And ultimately, that course is intended to be able to give folks basic knowledge. I say basic to intermediate knowledge on, how do we protect ourselves in the event of being stabbed or shot. So the intent is, how do we, I think Akil Bay says, how do we keep the blood circulating through the body, as well as keep the lungs going in and out, right? So how do we keep our breathing? So we go over compression, we go over using tourniquets, plugging holes, using trauma dressing, emergency moves. A lot of times, particularly in shootouts, right? Folks are running really fast. We talk about situational awareness as well, how to move people. In the event, let's say, you're 95 pounds and you got to move my big self, at 210 and, drag me somewhere, right? So in that class, we have, young girls in that class, moving big men with certain things that they have on their person that they could use to be able to assist and move people. And then we also talk about in the school as well, because as you know, mass shootings favor schools as well as religious institutions. So we talked about what are the things that you have in that space that you could use to be able to save lives in the event that you don't have something as fancy as a hot bag. And not factors or individual associations. So tons and tons of courses. I hope that answers your question. I can go on for days. But just continue to look to provide folks with space and opportunity to be able to feel comfortable in the Second Amendment. If you go back to pictures, we just recently had an all-Black instructors event down in North Carolina called Iron Sharpen Iron, where we have Black firearms instructors come from all over the country. Myself and 5 other instructors, along with my favorite, Marshall Davis from My Sister Keeper Defense down in Savannah, Georgia, providing instruction, professional development for instructors that are in other cities and states. And that was a phenomenal space. From that, I myself started the Black History Month Range Day in collaboration with State Representative China Tyler, with the intention and hope of, again, we want, if folks are going to be engaging in firearms in the Second Amendment, we want them to do it responsibly. We also want them to have a space where they are, they feel welcome and accepted. Because I can tell you personally, at a lot of the private ranges, they're not too welcoming to folks of color, particularly when you were in a fitted hat and Timberland. So, we really look forward to continue to provide that space every February. So shout out Mass Firearms School for allowing us the space and opportunity. Myself plus 7 other Black firearms instructors in the city came together and hosted a phenomenal Black History Month Range Day. And we look forward to continue to do those every year. So yeah, just continue to provide space and opportunity for the whole family to get educated, as well as to do it the correct way. For example, this picture that you have up right now, a lot of people in the state of Massachusetts, particularly those living in urban cities, do not know that a young person can get what is called an FID card at 15 years old. They can actually start the process at 14. And with an FID card from 15 to 18, they are allowed to go to any public range and shoot on their own with that FID card. When they turn 18, they're allowed to purchase a non-large capacity shotgun as well as a non-large capacity rifle. And what that ultimately means is that at 18 years old, in the state of Massachusetts, a young person can purchase a shotgun that holds no more than 5 shot shells and a rifle that holds no more than 10 cartridges in a magazine, which is ultimately any rifle, because Massachusetts has had a rifle ban since September 13th, 1994. So these are little things that people don't know, and if young people, I believe, knew that, one, they would, not get themselves in trouble, particularly when it comes to silly stuff. And two, will engage responsibly in the Second Amendment.
Mm-hmm. So we went through a lot in a little bit of time, but I want to hear you read what is on the screen right now.
You want me to do what? I couldn't hear you.
I want you to read what is currently on the screen.
Yeah, man. So it says, instead of making it taboo, if we teach the youth properly and safely, I judge we can curb much of the illegal gun activity, as well as creating safe space to prevent careless firearm accidents among urban youth. And I say that intentionally. When I was a very, very young, fresh out of college young man, I worked for a program called Boston Urban Youth Foundation. Shout out Chris Troy, shout out my man Manny Tickley. We used to take young men on trips, very much similar to what I was doing with the 10 Boys Initiative. And I had a young man named Tub Johnson, may forever rest in peace. And while we were on this college tour, Tub was like, going from, we get my life together. And when we get back to Boston, I'm going to do things right. I'm still, engaged with the program. Sadly, that young man, was drinking and smoking with his friends. Somebody pulled out a revolver. Being under the influence, they thought it would be cool to play Russian roulette, and sadly, tough life was taken. And I promised myself, as an educator, we all have vicarious trauma. Many of us suffer, and one of the things that I promised myself is, if there was one thing that I could do, I promised that I would do my very best to try to provide a healthy space for young men to engage in responsible gun ownership, and not, in the dark alley somewhere with somebody who didn't get firearm education properly and definitely don't know what they're doing. Mm-hmm. So we don't have any more Tub Johnson.
Mm-hmm. What are we currently looking at the screen? And for those that are currently listening audio only, you can go to Spark FM Facebook, YouTube, or Stitch. It'll also be up on the Wake Up with Taylor Andre Twitter. So I'm a huge Twitter fan. So everything is on Twitter as well. And we're trying to keep everything Spark. So go to the Spark YouTube, go to Spark Facebook. If you are listening on your phone via audio. So we are currently looking at a photo, and it looks like there's a couple people on the ground and some above them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so this was our last youth class in September. This is, children with their mothers. It was a beautiful class. So what you see is, in the event that, let's say somebody's banging, right, and they're fighting, a lot of times what people do, particularly if you look at like the King Von video from when he was murdered, a lot of people immediately try to pick people up off the floor. And what they don't realize is that when the head slams up against the floor, depending on how much blunt trauma it took, that if you go to lift somebody up immediately without checking on their condition, you can actually cause them permanent paralysis. And I can't tell you, how many times I've, seen young people get jumped or fighting, and they're immediately trying to pick that friend that just got knocked out up. So what you're seeing on that particular image is me showing young people how to align the spine without creating paralysis. So in the event that, again, that friend hit the floor, how you can, use your both hands to adjust their spine as you're waiting for, let's say, EMT to arrive, just so that way you're not creating further damage by thinking back to actually helping the situation. So we talked about that with the young people, and what you're seeing here is young folks helping with this aligning the spine.
So do you think it's possible, Don Core, that we could do like a live interview and not like actually recording the class, but kind of doing like in my head, the word is speed dating, but like kind of going through some of the things that you discuss or some of the things that you do in class. And so we can get a like better understanding hands-on what it looks like. Because these pictures are amazing. And I personally was in class with Don Core. You see this little girl here? I brought Anari and Asaria with us. Anari is 18. He has his FID card. Asaria, for her, she was like, Mommy, I'm not interested. Or what I call it? What's it? FID? Correct me, Don Core.
No, I'm making that face because I can't believe it's 18. I'm just over here like, where did time go?
Exactly. So when I started talking about something, I've known you just as long as I've been alive. Like, it's been a long time, and I was 18 years old, and it was way before I even had kids.
Yeah, that's insane. Yeah, so I definitely would love to partner with you with that. You, the Unprint Royalty for sure. One of the ideas that I've had, I just haven't had enough time to get off the ground, is I really would love, to kind of get people to understand why, at bare minimum, they should be carrying at least, this right here is what we call a SWAT tourniquet, and this one here is called a stat tourniquet.
We can't see. Pull it back a little bit. Let us see it for, that is called a what tourniquet?
This is called a stat tourniquet. And do you remember the video of the 5-year-old Latina in New York City that was shot by a stray bullet?
Yes.
Shooting at each other. Okay, so if you look at that video closely, the NYPD had tried to put on what is called a SWAT tourniquet, which is basically a standard, CAT tourniquet, I apologize, which is a standard combat application tourniquet. And those tourniquets are not big enough for, they're not small enough for small children. They're essentially made for grown-ups. So companies like North American Rescue created what is called a stat tourniquet. So essentially, it kind of looks like a zip tie, and you can use this as a tourniquet, and it can get as small as this, right? And you might say, well, why would I ever need a tourniquet this small? Well, go to WorldStar, and you will see a video of a mother in Chicago who was sitting in her car on Facebook Live, and then the shootout broke out, and her 5-year-old daughter was shot. You could kind of understand why it's important, particularly parents of entrants, want to carry these. And then, my father, as a United States Marine veteran, he would always say, 1 is dumb and 2 is done. All right, so
1 is dumb and 2 is what?
Done, like you got what you need. If you ever, witnessed a shootout, you know that, there's not going to just be one shot fired. So if someone is hit, then there may potentially not just be one bullet wound. Particularly, rest in peace, a young man, whose life was taken at Boston Carnival this year. He was shot, 3 to 5 times in his chest. All right. Now, though you cannot use a tourniquet in the torso region, but I say this to say that, it's important to understand that you should carry more than just one. So this right here is a small, refillable SWAT tourniquet, and basically what it looks like.
I want to put it up so we can see like the package. We can take a look at it. And where do we? Because you said these are the things that we need, but I can't go to Walgreens and just pick it up now, can I?
Not tourniquets, no. You can go to, if you're in Massachusetts, you can go to Doughboys, which is right there over by Dorset Hall. They actually have another one in Phil's Corner, I believe. So you can check out Doughboys. They sell tourniquets. But I would prefer that people go to my PCCC instructor. His name is Ray. He is a Green Beret combat veteran. Also, he was a medic when he was active. And he has a website where he sells all these things. So this is where I purchased it from, and that's redlineproducts.com. So if you go to redlineproducts.com, you can purchase your stat tourniquet as well as your SWAT. I got this right way. There you go. SWAT. Oh, look, you can actually see it quickly. So definitely.
So Redline what?
Products with an S.
In Springfield, New Hampshire.
There you go. So very, very good people. He stays stocked up. I keep in my car what you would call kind of like a emergency trauma bag. So that has about like 6 tourniquets. It has tons of guards. I can't tell you how many times I've been in the car with my daughters driving through the hood. you know, whether it's a fight breakout, you know, poor kid is on the floor bleeding, you know, issuing command, someone call 911, jump out the car, help, you know, help fix the person, and then the ambulance comes to do their job. Here's a little fun, little piece of data. This is real data as well. It's really important for folks to understand why you should be your own first responder. There you go. Very good. Thank you so much for sharing that. Very, very awesome brother. Very knowledgeable. Green Beret. Brilliant guy. He's who I do all my decon work with, as well as my teacher for school work. So in Boston, I'm that weird person that when I hear gunshots, you know, I throw on my timer. And living in Roxbury, one of the things that I started to do was time the fastest as well as the slowest arrival time of either EMT or the police. So red lights in comparison to blue lights. And in both cases, the fastest I've ever heard the police show up in a shooting around here is 7 minutes, right? And the longest, right, I ever heard the police show up was 22 minutes. Now, I want you to picture this, right? The body has anywhere between 5 liters of blood, 5 to 12 liters of blood, depending on, you know, how big your bones are, right? So if you take a wound, a gunshot wound, let's say to the abdomen, or your pelvic girdle specifically, right? Because you just experienced trauma, your heart is going to be racing extremely fast, which means that it's, depending on, you know, if it's arterial bleeding, every time your heart beats, you're going to spray out a lot of blood, right? So you can ultimately lose a pint of blood in 60 seconds, all right, depending on where that gunshot wound is in the torso or the pelvic girdle. So if you're telling me that it takes 7 minutes for an EMT to arrive, right? This is the reason why I have so many students who come to my class with these traumas, because they're like, yo, I literally held my friend in my hand, you know, right before they transitioned and passed away, right? So my hope is like, yo, let's change some of this, right? Like I said, I'm not a medic at all. You know, I'm just a middle school teacher who got tired of, you know, seeing empty seats in my classroom. So let's give the people the knowledge and the skills so that way they can add and put that time back onto their friends and people that they love lives, right? Simply by having a tourniquet, simply by having some gauze, a chest seal, as well as trauma dressing. Or if nothing else, use the drawstring from your joggers, use the laces in your socks, right? Learn how to use all these, not in your socks, I'm sorry, in your shoes. Learn how to use all of these things as improvised tourniquets and gauze, so that way we're not left with the traumas of having to see our loved ones pass away. So that's my hope and my intention. Sorry for being so long-winded.
Nah, you ain't. No, this is not long-winded. This is information that we need. And so we go to the website, we sign up for classes. I can tell you guys from experience, you get emails about the class. He will remind you, don't forget tomorrow we got class. And it's the class itself. Don Cole, can you just tell them a little bit about what it's like being in your class?
So my friend was laughing and making jokes the other day. He said, bro, your class is probably the most culturally proficient gun class I've ever been to in my life. And you know, I start my classes off for the gun education the same way I would my classroom. So we start off with libation. We honor the purpose and reason why we're here, because people come with a narrative and a story, and that deserves to be honored. You know what I'm saying? So I give time for that. In my classes, if you got a business, if you got a cousin that got a mixtape, a CD, a DVD, Charlie's Angels, it don't matter. Up on my board, every single class I leave space for people to honor their businesses, right? Because if we're truly trying to reestablish Black Wall Street, we gotta support each other. There's no reason why $1.3 trillion are just leaving Black and brown communities on a yearly basis. The same 5-year tenure. This is a yearly basis. So in order to recirculate that money so that the dollar stays in our community at least 7 times, I create that space in my classroom. And some people don't like that. They're like, yo, this class could have been done, you know, an hour ago. But they don't understand, like, it's important. You know, what I'm trying to do is bigger than just for Don. it includes, the whole, and not just my personal benefit. And then we get into the class. I do a lot of informational pieces, so I provide a lot of Black history, so that way people understand that our ancestors understood that in order to create peaceful and sovereign Black spaces, Black and brown spaces, that they had to be prepared to protect it, right? Starting as early as the early 1900s, at the beginning of the rise of a lot of the Black Greek organizations, which was a direct response to lynching. Young people, as young as 15 years old, our ancestor Ida B. Wells traveled the country and found out that communities that were armed did not face lynching as much as communities that were not armed, right? So when we're out here talking about say her name, it's like, yo, look, say Ida B. Wells' name too. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't forget her name. That's just refuse to be traumatized and victimized. So, it's extremely important to continue to do that. So I do that in class. I talk about why Haiti is instrumental. And I'm not Haitian, my family is from Jamaica, but I constantly hail up Haiti and understanding that if folks do not recognize how critical Haiti is in the development of America, right, in 1776, Haitians have a direct connection to the Second Amendment, and it's important as far as being Black in America is concerned. And a lot of people don't know that Haiti was sequestered, right? They were free men and women that were sequestered, and I think it was about 500 to 700 of them that were brought here to America to help America beat the British, right? So people think that, the brother Jean-Baptiste Dupaul, Dusable from Chicago, right? They say that he was a former slave. He was not. The man was born a free man and was sequestered to come to America. And after the American Revolution, he just, wandered a little Midwest, and then he created Chicago. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, these kind of stories need to be told. And I tell them in my classroom. So that's why my class is, 6 hours long, because you got to get this information. And I don't want people thinking that the gun is the solution. In effort of, educating people, one thing I say, and this is my own personal judgment, it's not fact, but I say the one thing that failed the Haitian Revolution was that there was no plan of how they were going to live the day after they got the oppression off of their neck. And that's why this has to be healing. Because if you're carrying a firearm and you're looking to not fall victim to tyranny, you also have to have a plan in place for how you're going to live peacefully and in harmony with others. So that is, I guess, a kind of a holistic approach, to why we get our firearms and what we plan to do to live peacefully. The proverb that I use is, it is better to be a warrior in the garden than to be a gardener in a war. So we recognize that, everyone that is looking for their firearm is looking to live peacefully. We're not out here trying to start mess, but we recognize that evil is present in this world. So if that evil is present, then my job is to have the tools to protect myself and to fight against that evil. So that's what we do in our class, man. It's lit. We have fun. I crack jokes. People laugh. You get to manipulate firearms, load and unload. We do a lot. We go over Massachusetts law. We have a representative that comes in every class. You know what I'm saying? So I'm eternally grateful to the USCCA to make sure that our people are provided legal protection, right? Because in the hood, we always talk about keeping that $40 under the mattress, right? In the event that you get locked up. But in any legal firearm case, you're going to need more than $40. So the USCCA comes through to inform people about, their options in getting legal protection. So I definitely encourage people to come through to any of our classes, man. Like I said, I do my very best to make it informative, culturally sensitive, space for healing, and moving forward, as well as come fill out this application with that LTC and get strapped up.
So, and that transitions us right into, before we wrap up, how exactly is the process right now? Because I'm currently on a waiting list.
Yeah, so that's the deal. Every city has kind of a different process. So my homeboy Bon Stray from Black Lives Matter, who you actually brought here for the very first time.
Hold on.
He does a very good job of, there you go, talking about how redlining impacts Black and brown communities in regards to getting their firearms license. And that's a true statement, right? Wherever there's a mass group of Black and brown people, the process is more difficult, right? And what that means is, in a city like, let's say, for example, Boston, there used to be a shooting qualification where you used to have to go to Moon Island and you have to do a shooting call, compared to our neighbors, let's say Quincy, who do not have that shooting qualification. All they got to do is take a class, show up, apply, and boom, they get their unrestricted license. So essentially, all you have to do is take a firearm safety course. There is 20 different courses that you can take. I offer 2 out of that 20. Actually, technically, I offer 3. All right, but the third one I don't really like because it doesn't do enough in as far as educating people properly. So take a firearm safety course. Once you complete that course, then you're going to go to your police headquarters and you are going to ask for a license to carry interview. All right, once you get that interview, they have 30 to 90 days to, actually technically they have 40 days, but the absolute last day they have to respond is 90 days. So they have 30 to 90 days to respond.
But Donko, the process is a little different now, because I went to the website that you told me to go to and I had to put myself on a list.
Yeah, so only in the city of Boston is there a huge list. Funny story, someone hacked the BPD system and there was like 3,000 people on that list and those 3,000 people got extradited. So they're down to like 300 now. So it's kind of funny. But so call again, you might be like number 125. After you call, particularly with Boston, they're gonna put you on a waiting list. Other cities don't have a waiting list, all right? But Boston does. Most cities you can walk in, submit your application, and get good. But Boston has a huge waiting list, as you can see, it's a metropolis city, so there's a lot of people trying to get their license to carry. And then after that, you get your interview, fingerprinted, and then, like I said, 30 to 90 days, they get to respond.
And so I'm going to go ahead and call and see where I fall on that list today. Thank you, Don Core. This is the Don Firearms. We went ahead and had the website up, but then we went to Redline Products. And so, Don Core, give us the website again.
My website is www.donfirearms.com. If you want to go straight to the calendar, it's /calendar. All the course dates, as well as course information, what you will need, how long it's going to be, where it's going to be located at. I teach most of my courses out of the CoPad, which is in Mattapan Square at 1601 Blue Hill Ave, on the 2nd floor. I'm up there with my man, Money Yoga Mike, as well as Boston Realty Company. So definitely check us out up there at 1601 Blue Hill Ave. And for additional information, you can call 617-650-5708.
They weren't ready for the number, so let's go ahead and talk about the website one more time and get your pens ready, get your phones ready for the number.
Yep, the number is 617-650-5708. All right, go ahead and click on calendar. You click on calendar. Yep, so all of our course dates are posted right there. You can see everything from now all the way until 2021. I like to post my classes quarter.
2022.
Oh, Jesus, you're right. Yeah, 2022. Time is flying. So you'll see everything from October all the way through to December. Definitely check us out. Come through, take a course, tell a friend, and tell another friend that it's him again. We out here.
And as far as like tourniquets are concerned, go to redlineproducts.com. They have different tourniquets. There's like 6 different tourniquets that you can have. And Don Core is talking about the importance of keeping them in your car, keeping them in your purse, having them in your glove compartment, not department, y'all. And so, Don Core, I thank you for your time. I know you're super busy. I do appreciate us having this conversation. And we will figure out how to make this like a live situation. So we're not giving the class for free, but you guys can get an understanding of what it is that you are all missing as far as knowledge is concerned, when it comes to, and yo, we didn't even get to talk about the bug out bag, because I really wanted to talk about the bug out bag and the never coming home again bag. Like I wanted to kind of do a little deeper dive into that, because it's crazy how once upon a time anybody who was prepared for such a thing was a prepper and was crazy, and now it's a necessity, especially when we see what happened in Texas and how many people were without water, how many people were without any form of electricity. So like generators and solar powered anything. So this is a conversation that I want us to continue to have. And so Don Cor, hopefully before the end of the year, we'll be able to have you back. If not, at the top of the year, we can have this conversation again.
Yes, will do.
Mm-hmm.
Be my pleasure. Oh, and the idea that I had was, maybe you could pull up somewhere, let's say Malapan Square or Nubian Square, and I can do demonstrations. It might be a little weird because, I got some lens that I have a pump, and I pump blood out of it, so like, it might freak some people out, but I would love to.
You already know I'm down for that shit.
Definitely come for a real piece, and definitely consider, offering it, to the people and give them kind of a clear understanding of why it's important to have tourniquets on you, as well as pepper gel. That's another subject.
Not pepper spray. You said pepper gel?
Nah, you don't want pepper spray. Pepper spray is an aerosol, right? So like you see right now, the wind is blowing, right? So if you spray pepper spray and the wind blows, what do you think happens?
It's gonna blow.
Right in your face, right? Pepper gel is a thicker, sticky substance that when you spray it comes out in a heavier stream. So instead of kind of like
silly string type situation.
Kind of, yes. When it comes out, yes. Compared to the pepper spray, which is an aerosol.
And then when you rub it in, it's a gel, so it's gonna just
It's a wrap for you. So I always tell students, listen, if over the counter, our sons and our daughters should be carrying pepper gel. Just tell them don't play with it in the schools. Keep it in their bags, right? But a lot of schools, particularly like match, the children that play for sports at those schools, they're leaving those schools at all kinds of hours, walking through, college university, where on Thursday, Friday, night, sometimes people are drunk, you know what I'm saying? So like, we want our children to stay protected, and like I said, it's over the counter, so they can keep it as long as they're responsible women. But again, pepper gel, not pepper spray.
And so I am Taylor Andre. This is the Don Firearms, thedonfirearms.com. Go ahead and follow him on Instagram. Facebook don't like him too much, but go to the website, figure out what class is going to be best for you. I went ahead and I took myself and the children and got them ready, set. Asaria said, Mommy, I'm not about this life. I don't want nothing to do with it. But because you want me to learn, I will go. And she did. And she did what she had to do to learn how to take a bullet out if necessary. And so at the least, get your babies educated, because if they are not learning from you or from Don Cor, right, through you, they're learning with their friends. Their friends got uncles, cousins, aunties, mamas with guns under the mattress, in the drawer. They know exactly where it is. And their friends are in your house looking, playing, or your kids are in somebody else's house looking and playing. And so that's what it was for me. Because I know Anari's friends are his friends. And I want them to be fully educated on how to utilize a firearm if necessary. And so I could go on and on and on. Don Cor, thank you so much. Everything Taylor Andre, TaylaAndre. If you know anybody looking to buy or sell in Massachusetts or Georgia, 617-459-0041. I thank you. I love you. I appreciate you. And I hope you guys have an amazing day. Ow. Oh, I gotta pee. Hmm.
It's a bad.
Look at God. Look at God. I didn't come to play with you bitches. Mm-hmm. Oh God.